Chapter 2 Hacker Leon www Airlines Flight 626 www Airlines Flight 626. None of that should be of any significance to anyone. Not the airline, the flight number, nor the model of plane to which it all refers. Not in today's world, where gigantic news stories are so frequent as to bleed together. And while they're not an everyday occurrence, plane crashes happen. Though not every crash leaves a number of dead or missing persons in the triple digits. www Airlines Flight 626 reached its cruising altitude somewhere above 30,000 feet before suddenly and inexplicably deviating from its flight path and disappearing altogether. Authorities confirmed that the plane crashed into the ocean, but its flight recorder was never recovered. Nor was a single body. Everyone aboard was eventually presumed dead. Several months later, a piece of the plane washed ashore thousands of kilometers away from the crash site. The cause of the crash was never determined, let alone whether it was an accident or foul play. Theories on everything from mechanical failure to pilot error were floated, but none were confirmed. There was, however, one person who knew the truth. That codecracker used an AI known as a Digimon to deliberately crash www Airlines Flight 626. This was not made public because the public wouldn't have understood. They weren't aware of Digimon, let alone the digital world's existence. Leon Alexander snapped bolt upright in bed, his breathing ragged. The nightmare was back. He hunched over and steadied his breathing before reaching out into the darkness, where a soft light greeted him.
"I heard you scream. Are you okay, Leon?"
said the Digimon beside his bed. The Digimon was not real, but hololized, and gave off a gentle glow. Its body crackled with electricity, and little sparks occasionally shot out from its hide. Pulsemon. Rookie. Beast. Vaccine type. It looked like an electrical fairy. A lightning bolt-shaped lick of fur stood out from its forehead, bobbing gently as it doted on its partner.
"Were you dreaming about the accident again? You haven't done that in a while,"
it said softly. Yeah, Pulsemon. It's back. Leon groaned. Pulsemon's light illuminated the bottle of mineral water on Leon's bedside table. He grabbed it, twisted off the cap, and proceeded to drain the entire bottle in one go.
"Do you need any medicine?"
No, thanks. I'm good. What a time to be awake, huh? Leon's apartment afforded a commanding view of Denrin district, whose skyline was barely visible in the pre-dawn light.
"You've got an early class today, don't you? Why not try getting a bit more sleep?"
Pulsemon suggested. No, I'll just get up now. It's a boring subject, but the professor's real strict about attendance. The courses were online lectures, though you couldn't just leave the livestream running and go about your business. There were attendance checks and pop quizzes at the end, which was a real pain.
"Do you even need to graduate at this point? You're basically an Abbott Electronics, a DDL employee,"
Pulsemon said impishly. I promised my father I'd graduate and get a job. That's what I'm going to do. Besides, being a college student leaves me plenty of time for other things, Leon replied.
"Like ethical hacking?"
Pulsemon asked with a playful wink. I'm gonna take a shower, Leon said with a chuckle. The nightmare had left him sweaty, and a shower would set him right. He hoisted himself out of bed and shuffled to the bathroom. Digital World, Wall Slum, 9th District. Lugerman and a hololized AG stood before the husk of the castle of 9 wolves in the heart of Lugermon's home turf. So, you're telling me you don't have your memories back yet? AG asked.
My scent can only tell me so much. I remember that I was raised here, and that I later laid claim to this district,
Lugerman tentatively replied. These were mere fragments of memories, without detail. I see. I hope you'll remember the rest someday, AG said.
It doesn't matter if I do or not.
Oh?
Do humans want to remember everything from the past forever?
Lugerman pressed. Huh. I don't remember anything prior to elementary school, no. And there are things from middle and high school that I'd prefer not to remember, either, AG admitted. He'd graduated high school without a job. Once he became a codecracker, he inevitably lost touch with all his friends, who had continued with their education instead.
I thought as much. We tend to forget the things that don't matter.
Well, don't you sound all grown up and tough, AG snorted. The next instant, 3 Tyrannomen appeared in the castle of the 9 wolves main square, surrounding them. Oh, hi fellas, nice work, AG said warmly. The Tyrannomon continued vocalizing, transferring the data they'd gathered to Lugermon in the process. They'd managed to map out most of the 9th district and estimated the number of Digimon within its confines while they were at it.
They're quite the little lackeys, aren't they?
Lugermon asked, sounding rather impressed. To AG, they were more like brothers. He tossed them a couple of strips of meat as a reward. You could be the 4th if you wanted, AG offered.
The Tyrannomon would outrank me?
Lugermon snapped. AG flashed a playful grin. Set them to patrol the 9th district periodically.
I fear there are those foolish enough to dare invading my territory while I am away,
Lugermon said. Let's set up the routine now. Good luck out there, fellas, AG said, patting a Tyrannomon that loomed over him. The Tyrannomon responded with quick, low growls. He couldn't exactly talk to them, since he hadn't bothered to mind link with them, but he could now tell when they were trying to communicate with him. That was new, and it felt so nice. The wail of sharp, piercing sirens snapped AG out of his momentary reverie. What's going on? He spun around, scanning his surroundings. It wasn't a warning from the Digimon Linker or any other Digivice. The other Digimon in the square fled in panic. Some retreated into buildings or underground bunkers.
AG!
Lugermon shouted above the din.
Gather your Tyrannoman and get out of here!
Why? AG shouted back, calling up a virtual monitor. He swiftly returned the Tyrannomon to their dock, quit out of his hololized form, and returned to Lugermon's Digicore. He could now see through Lugermon's eyes, thanks to a virtual monitor that opened at AG's eye level. Lugermon dashed up the side of the castle of 9 wolves, which rose high above the den of iniquity that was the wall slum. Atop it sat a watchtower, which in turn gazed out at the vast digital ocean. The Digimon lookout within was sounding the alarm AG heard moments earlier. Vortex! Vortex! The Digimon shouted repeatedly. Vortex? AG repeated. He wasn't entirely sure what that meant in the context of the digital world, but he could tell it was bad. The panicked Digimon below were enough of a hint in that regard. There, Lugermon said, shifting his gaze. AG's eyes focused, revealing a gigantic hole. No, a whirlpool. On the surface of the vast digital sea, like someone had pulled the drain plug in a massive bathtub. It had to be several meters in diameter, and it was sucking all manner of digital detritus into its gaping maw as it slowly moved across the surface. We stand on the firewall that protects the digital world from containment data of the real world, but of course no wall is perfect. There are small gaps and cracks, and those are the cause of the vortex you see here, Lugermon explained. The firewall protects the digital world. The gateway manages the flow of web traffic, and the wall slum is built from the wayward bits of junk data that accumulate around the gateway. But, as Lugamon said, no firewall is perfect. The gateway must not be the only gap in the digital world's defense. So, that's coming from a hole in the digital world's security? AG yelled, the various puzzle pieces suddenly sliding into place.
Exactly. We do not know when or where they will occur. Think of them as natural disasters. And that area in particular is a hotbed of vortex activity,
Lugamon said, slowly tracking the vortex's path.
How do you mean? All of the data that the wall slum cannot hold spills out from the rusted coast into the real world, like so much garbage. As you have a... what was it called? A garbage patch? In your ocean, so too do we in ours. I do not know why the current carries it all there, but there it remains, a floating island of refuse,
Lugamon said gravely.
That's awful. Over there, meanwhile, is the Dust Kingdom, where not even the scavenger Digimon of the 5th district dare to tread. It's full of garbage data, and we've yet to determine whether that is the cause of the Dust Kingdom's corruption.
Care to elaborate?
The corruption is multifaceted, and it creates vortexes. Though the vortexes are generally short-lived, every so often a particularly large one forms. On rare occasions, they even threaten the wall slums directly.
What happens then? The vortex was right before their eyes now, grazing the shores of the wall slum. An immense roar filled the air as they watched it tear up a section of the wall slum, breaking apart the data as it sucked it into its vast void.
Its district is completely erased, including all the Digimon who live there,
Lugamon said solemnly. You can't be serious. Fortunately, the worst did not come to pass. The vortex grazed the outer shores of the wall slum, retreated, and dissipated. The sirens ceased wailing, and Digimon re-emerged into the Castle of Nine Wolves public square. What happens when you get sucked into the vortex? If it really is a hole in the digital world's firewall, does it take you into the depths of the digital world or something? AG asked, furrowing his brow. If there was a wall, and the wall had a hole in it, then there must be something on the other side of the wall. Right?
First of all, we don't call what's beyond the wall another layer, or the depths. And besides, it's an impossible question to answer,
Lugamon said, shaking his head. What makes you say that? AG pressed.
The digital world cannot know peace so long as a hole in the firewall remains open. If a human from your world were to make use of one and reach, as you called it, the depths of the digital world,
Lugamon let the thought hang in the air. What would happen? AG asked, swallowing hard.
Your corporeal form might survive, but your consciousness would not. Under no circumstances would digital world system administrator abide an intruder from the real world. Now let's go,
Lugamon said sharply.
Go where? Don't go where with me. You're the one who set the reminder, and you've been reminded.
There was enough to jog AG's memory. Time flies when you're mind-linking.
Oh shoot, my appointment with Professor Ryusenji, he shouted.
AG severed the mind link and returned to reality. Abaddon Electronics, Denrin Digital Laboratory. Good morning, you two. These are phenomenal results. Professor Ryusenji beamed, heaping praise upon AG and Lugamon as he walked into his office. Thank you, Professor. We owe our successful mind link to the Digimon Linker and your tireless work, AG said, smiling from ear to ear. Lugamon's hololized form sat curled on the sofa. And your compatibility. It takes more than an advanced device to create a successful mind link. And it won't work with just any Digimon. You two share a special connection, Professor Ryusenji said with a grin.
Still, AG began, when I come out of the mind link and wake up back in the real world,
I always feel a little bit dizzy, he explained. He'd be more than dizzy, in fact. The first time he awoke from the mind link, He found himself leaning against the wall of his apartment. His head was swimming, the room spun wildly around him, and he felt like he was going to throw up. I've been monitoring your vitals through the Digimon linker, and I haven't noticed anything unusual. Even looking at past trials, I don't think we need to be concerned so long as a bit of rest was enough to help you recover, the professor explained. It was no different, apparently, from an astronaut returning to Earth after a stint in zero gravity, and something AG would grow accustomed to in time. That's a relief. Oh, and there's just one more thing. Right, Lugamon? AG said, glancing at his partner. Don't look at me, I'm exhausted, Lugamon mumbled. He certainly did not appreciate being bothered during nap time. Then I'll say it. This Digimon, he can talk in the real world too, AG blurted excitedly. Once you've mind-linked with a Digimon, you're able to talk to them from that point onward, the professor calmly replied. Yes, even after the mind-link was severed. So, there are more talking Digimon in DDL, is what you're saying? AG prodded, extrapolating from the professor's idle past trials comment. That, as you know, is classified. D4. Professor Ryosenji answered, by way of indirect confirmation. DDL was AE's bleeding-edge research laboratory. The D4 division was full of exceptional hackers, codecrackers, and now AG suspected powerful Digimon. Right then, to business, the professor said, pivoting to the meat of the meeting. AG's midterm performance review. Professor Ryosenji selected AG to infiltrate the notorious team of codecrackers known as the Sons of Chaos, or SOC. The aim of this gambit was to get close to Tartarus, their mysterious leader, and learn more about the massive operation the SOC are planning. I got word from the interviewer that I've passed the entry exam, AG said, flipping his phone around to show the professor. Said interviewer's avatar, an abstract figure wearing a necktie as a headband, sat alongside a grim message informing AG he'd passed. And what was the substance of the test? A survey on the Wall Slum's 9th district, where codecrackers and Digipolice alike fear to tread, the professor noted. It was no problem for me, thanks to the mind link. I got lucky, though. It turns out Lugamon used the life right there in the 9th district. We were right back in his old stomping grounds. You knew that already, didn't you? AG asked slyly. Well, DDL took... Rather, DDL collected. The professor began choosing his words carefully. Lugamon from the Wall Slum all those years ago, to keep him safe. Safe from... AG asked expectantly. That's classified. D4? AG asked, guessing the answer. Quite right. Now, were there any more developments with regard to Lugamon's memory? The professor asked. He only remembered bits and pieces when he picked up his own scent in the 9th district. I don't think he remembers digivolving into Lugarmon this time so much as he remembers that he used to be a champion way back then, AG said, following a hunch of his. So he's recovered some of the power he ought to have, the professor said, nodding. He couldn't remember much of anything previously. The other Digimon of the Wall Slum, however, remembered him. Lugarmon. I believe they called him the Demon Wolf of the 9 Wolves. Lugamon was by all accounts the boss of the 9th district, and he had the moniker to prove it. So, this royal runt is fit to be king, eh? Glad to see I wasn't far off in my approach to training him, AG said, pleased with himself. I'm sure you're aware, but we have observed errors and gaps in Lugamon's memory. What we would call amnesia in humans, the professor continued. Yeah, it's possible that as he remembers more, he will suffer bouts of mental anguish. If and when he does, AG, I want you to be there for him. It was clear from the professor's gentle tone of voice that he cared deeply for Lugamon. The little creature wasn't just some AI programmed to him. Like all Digimon, this pup was worthy of love and protection. You got it. AG looked over at Lugamon, who was still curled up on the sofa. Whereas AG was hololized in the digital world, here in the real world it was the other way around. When I was hololized in the digital world, I think I started to understand Lugamon a bit better. Like, how Digimon feel, I guess? AG couldn't adequately put his thoughts into words. Is that so? Well, let me just say I feel incredibly fortunate to have met such a young codecracker myself, the professor said, interrupting AG's meandering musings. You really mean that? Wow, so much has happened since I met you and Lugamon, and now I really want to work with him to change life in the digital world for the better. Yes. Life. Well then, I suppose that makes you two partners in this endeavor. The word partners hit AG just right. The word partners hit AG just right. You bet we are. He felt a genuine connection to Lugamon. He knew they were meant to be a team, helping one another navigate the digital world. He would do whatever it took to make sure Lugamon felt the same way about him. If he could manage that, they could do anything, even change life in the digital world for good. Ah, yes, here's a little something extra for you, seeing as you got him to digivolve to the champion level, the professor said softly. Awesome, a bonus! This was an uncharted territory for AG. No matter how many hours he poured into his job, he'd never be able to save up 100,000 DC, let alone 500,000. Now, though, he wouldn't struggle to pay rent, nor his credit card bills, anytime soon. Feeling financially stable was exhilarating and merited celebrating with an expensive sushi dinner. His small success in the digital world were paying real-world dividends, and in turn affording him the ability to take on more risk in the hopes of reaping big rewards down the line. Now, AG, I want you to continue your investigation into the SOC, Professor Ryusenji ordered. Well, I'm an official member now. I've already been contacted by the higher-ups, too. Got a meeting with them later today, AG said. You certainly work quickly, don't you? The MindLink works wonders. It's better than any business card. The mere mention of the MindLinker had earned him immediate respect, and wearing the Digimon Linker conferred more status than any luxury watch he could have brought. Who are you meeting with? Let me check. AG scrolled through the messages on his phone to find the name. Marvin. A codecracker. His name's Marvin, I think. I've only ever messaged him. Marvin, the songsmith. You certainly weren't kidding about meeting the high-ups. Professor Ryusenji rarely took such great interest in people, so this caught AG's attention. Is he famous or something? He writes and cracks code as a virtuoso plays the instrument. He's one of the lead developers on that app you all use. Grim, that's the one. That makes him one of the leading software engineers in the world. Grim protects his financial records and social media services with extremely robust security. People the world over trust it implicitly. If you work for or run an upstanding business, however, you can't use Grim for official business. Why? Rumor has it that it's developed and run by volunteer codecrackers. That said, all manner of public institutions and armies reach for Grim out of sheer convenience, which naturally causes all sorts of information security problems. Oh, so he's huge. Their leader Tartarus might even be waiting on the other side of Marvin's door, eh? AG mused. Be careful, AG. You're a spy. Never forget that. You must operate in the SOC's inner circles without blowing your cover. I would prefer that you have a long career, the professor cautioned. Yes, sir. Good. Now, before you meet with a member of the SOC's upper echelons, it's important that I show you something. Something that is a matter of life and death for you. The professor opened the file on his computer for AG to see. D4 classified ML experiment number date site DDL.